I used to think love was a matter of willpower, choose each other, keep choosing, and everything else will obey. That was before the year I learned how badly timing can bruise the truth. I met Mira in a city that didn't belong to either of us. I was in Barcelona for a 3-month consulting project, the kind where days stretched long and dinners began at 10. She was there on a fellowship, photographing quiet corners, the backs of chairs after conversations, balconies with drying shirts, windows that still remembered hands. We were introduced at a rented kitchen table, crowded with bowls of olives and bottles with unfamiliar labels. Her laugh pressed pause on the room. We made the usual small talk and then the kind that arrives already warm. She showed me a photo of an old man sweeping a tiled floor at dawn. I told her my job taught me to read spreadsheets, but her picture showed me how to read light. She said I made ordinary things sound safe. I said she made safe things feel lit from the inside. Neither of us was alone in our real lives. I had Lena back in Chicago. She had Tomas in Lisbon. We wore the fact like a gentle warning. We said each other's partners' names out loud, the way you set a cushion between you on a bench when you know you should keep space. We meant it. We tried. Barcelona is a city built for detours. We took the long ways, through Born at blue hour, around the cathedral when its bells turned the air metallic, down to the water where the waves sounded like someone wringing out a towel. We never touched. We learned each other through ordinary cataloging, favorite fruit hers. Cherries, childhood scar mine, eyebrow from a table corner. The precise way each of us folded a t-shirt, she smoothed the seam first. I lined the collar to the hem. I told myself it was friendship shaped like restraint. Then one night, we got caught in a downpour. We ran under a shop awning and watched the street silver over. She stood so close I could see the rain invent tiny rivers on her lashes. She said very softly, "I don't know where to put this." I said, "Me either." We stayed under the awning until the rain moved on without us. We drew a rule: no late texts, no invitations that begin with "come over," no secrets. We sent photos of our dinners to the people who were waiting for us elsewhere. We were careful because we believed carefulness could outpace desire. It worked until it didn't. In week 7, my project extended. In week 7, her fellowship did too. An accident of calendars felt like permission we hadn't asked for. One afternoon, she brought me to a courtyard no one visited, a lemon tree in a square of sun, the kind of quiet that fits in a pocket. She said, "If I photograph you here, will you look like yourself or like the person Barcelona made of you?" I said maybe both. She raised her camera, then put it down. "It would be easier if you were unremarkable." I laughed and she didn't. The first time we held hands was a mistake with a long memory. We were crossing a street and a motorbike cut too close. She reached, I reached back, and our fingers threaded like they'd been waiting in antechambers. That night, I wrote Lena a long, mundane paragraph about my day, and I felt like a thief at a self-checkout line, convincing myself it wasn't really stealing if the scanner failed. What followed was not torrid. It was ordinary and therefore dangerous. Dinners that ran late because we both miscounted on purpose. Mornings with separate coffee cups but one conversation. The sugar packet I kept in my pocket from a cafe where she spilled a little and laughed. The way her name looked in my notebook next to figures that suddenly felt like props in the wrong play. We didn't kiss. We carried the not kissing like a trophy, proof we were still good people. I thought goodness was what you did with your mouth. I learned it's what you do with your choices. The first fracture came from outside. Tomas found a photo on Mira's camera roll me in that courtyard, eyes half closed against the lemon tree's brightness. He didn't accuse, he asked. She told him the truth carefully, like she was lowering something breakable onto a shelf. "It's not an affair," she said. "It's a feeling I'm trying not to have." He said, "Feelings are already something." That night, she told me on a bench facing a street performer balancing on a ladder. She said she'd promised Tomas she would step back. I said I understood. We sat without touching. The performer fell once, laughed, climbed again, reached the top, and bowed. The crowd applauded, relieved the risk had ended safely. We did not applaud. We did not feel safe. We negotiated a truce with ourselves. We would only see each other in groups. We would take different routes home. We would not stand under awnings together. For a time, it worked. I relearned the taste of restraint. She took more night photographs. I rehearsed small talk with colleagues until my throat felt practical. Then the city cheated for us. A strike took the metro down. A sudden storm canceled flights. A heat wave emptied the streets after sunset. In emptiness, rules go looking for needs. It was the night of St. Joan, bonfires along the beach, fireworks stitching the sky, clumsy and beautiful. People were shouting, kissing, running into waves, inventing new beginnings out of sparks. We walked with everyone and with no one. Suddenly the crowd surged. Someone pushed. Mira stumbled. I caught her by the elbows. She looked up at me with a face that didn't have room for lies. I keep trying to be the better version of myself, she said, and all I manage is the lonelier one. The fireworks wrote our names on the dark and erased them badly. I kissed her. She kissed me back like gravity had finally won its case. The weeks after were a country that no map prints. We were careful in public and clumsy in private, which is to say we were human. We cooked in borrowed kitchens. We learned the other's shirts by smell. We pressed notes under each other's doors in tiny, sensible envelopes. We were not cruel to the people who loved us. We were merely absent in ways that looked polite. We told ourselves stories about transitions. How sometimes you have to leave a room before you can enter another. We believed we were stepping through a threshold. We failed to see the corridor was narrow and everyone we loved would be grazed. Guilt does not cancel joy, it shadows it. There were mornings my chest ached with an unnameable gratitude. And evenings, I sat in a bathroom with the fan on, crying quietly into a towel so no one would name me what I feared I was becoming. Mira kept taking pictures of spaces after people left them, chairs with warm dents, cups with lipstick ghosts. Proof that presence lingers, she said. Proof that absence has weight, I said. We were both right, which is how people stay wrong for so long. Lena flew in, surprising me, carrying a smile that had traveled through 3 time zones to find my face. She'd arranged it with my team. She'd booked the small hotel near the market with the flaky croissants I texted her about. The lobby had a bowl of oranges. I tasted ash. When you've been preparing to tell the truth does not get easier because the person you owe it to looks kind. I told her in sentences that did not defend me. She listened with hands folded as if prayer still had a chance. When I finished, she said, I kept a plant alive in our kitchen because I thought it was practice for us. Then she said, thank you for not making me find out wrong. She did not stay the night. I did not deserve that grace, and she gave it anyway, which is its own kind of indictment. Tomas came a week later. He didn't knock on my door. He waited outside Mira's building like a man who knows the difference between fighting and leaving. They spoke on the steps for a long time. He cried into his palms. She pressed a hand between his shoulder blades the way you do when you remember who someone was to you before you needed to be someone else. He kissed her forehead. He walked away. I watched from the opposite corner and hated the way relief felt like theft. We told ourselves we'd move to a small city that didn't owe either of us allegiance. Porto. Maybe. Or Milwaukee. Somewhere with a river that forgives and a bakery that learns our order. She would teach, I would work remotely. We would build a life out of ordinary bricks. We looked at cheap apartments online and circled them like children drawing wishes. We said phrases like fresh start and thought we meant courage. Her mother got sick. My father's company collapsed and took my savings with it. Mira's visa wouldn't cooperate. My contract shrank. A friend needed a couch. A landlord raised a rent. Problems don't announce themselves in chorus. They arrive staggered, each asking you to bend just a little. We bent until we recognized the shape of ourselves less and the shapes of the emergencies more. We fought twice. The first time was about whether love should be this hard. The second was about whether we were calling the right thing hard. We apologized like people who wanted to stay. We held each other like people who knew staying might not be enough. There wasn't a single cruel moment. No slammed door. No cruel sentence that stamps a date on a heartbreak. Just a quiet kitchen in late August, the kind of heat that makes even fruit tired. We were planning another set of forms, another call to an office, another rearrangement of the furniture of our lives. She was cutting peaches. I was making a list. She set the knife down and said, "If we keep solving, when do we start living?" I didn't have an answer that didn't sound like a brochure. I said, "Soon." She looked at me the way you look at a weather forecast that has promised sun all week while you stand in the rain. She said, "I want the version of us that wakes up and the first decision is coffee or tea, not which border will be kind today." I said, "Me too." We both knew "me too" wasn't a plan. It was a wish. And we took a walk. We passed the lemon tree courtyard where she'd almost photographed me and didn't. We passed a storefront where a seamstress adjusted a dress on a mannequin's patient body. We passed a boy whistling a song that pretended not to be sad. On a bridge, we stopped. Mira leaned on the railing and watched the water go where water goes. "If love is a choice," she said, "what do you call it when the world keeps choosing for you?" Neither of us had a word we wanted to live in. We went home and did not touch. We ate the peaches without speaking. They were so sweet it felt like mockery. We decided together, which is the only way I can live with it, to stop insisting. She would go back to Lisbon and finish the fellowship's final exhibit. I would return to Chicago and learn how to inhabit a city that contained my name before it contained my honesty. We didn't call it breaking up. We called it letting what can't survive stop suffering. Language does its best to cushion the fall. The ground remains the ground. On her last night, she finally photographed me in the courtyard. No pose, no instruction. Just me, hands in pockets, looking a little to the left of the camera, like maybe I'd heard someone call my name and wasn't sure if I wanted to answer. She printed 2 copies in the school's darkroom, one for each of us. On the back of mine, she wrote, "Proof we were real." At the airport, we didn't perform the movie version. No running, no last-minute reversal, no dramatic speech that makes crowds clap in languages they don't share. We stood near the sign that orders you to remove your belt. She said, "Be happy even if it looks nothing like what we pictured." I said, "Be safe even if it looks exactly like what we feared." We held hands once more. The way you press your palm to glass to convince your body there's still a way through. Then we let go. Back in Chicago, I learned the discipline of mornings, coffee, dishes, a run along the lake that pretended to be an ocean and sometimes fooled me. I kept the photo under a book on my desk, not hidden, not displayed. Some days I forgot it was there. Other days, the desk might as well have been an altar. Lena mailed a small box, my spare key, a t-shirt, 2 concert stubs from a night I had ruined before it began. Her note said, "I hope you become the person you are trying to be." The mercy of that sentence undid me more than anger would have. I wrote her back to say thank you, and I'm sorry in a paragraph that knew neither would balance any books. From Lisbon, Mira sent a catalog of her exhibit. On page 12, a chair with a warm dent. On page 20, a balcony with shirts breathing in the Atlantic wind. On the last page, that courtyard portrait of me. The caption read, "Presence, documented while it was still brave enough to be seen." I traced the letters with my thumb until the ink felt familiar to my skin. People ask what happened to us, as if a clean answer will keep them safe. I say we chose each other until choosing each other meant losing too much else. And then we chose honesty. I say we were not punished. We were simply human in a world that counts paperwork as loudly as it counts heartbeat. I say we lost each other, and we didn't make villains out of anyone to make it easier to sleep. When I think of her now, it isn't the kiss under fireworks that returns first. It's the way she steadied a bowl with her hip while stirring batter, the way she turned off lights with her knuckle, the way she never capped a pen without making sure the click had a second to be heard. I think of how love made us larger and then asked us to grow further than our circumstances could stretch. If this has a last honest sentence, it's this: we loved each other in full, and then we let go in full, and both acts were love. Even if neither looked like the kind we meant when we started. And somewhere, in a drawer that holds useful things, there's a photo of me beside a lemon tree, proof that for a while, we were real in a way that does not require permission to remember.